November 1954. A cold wind cuts across Tokyo Bay. I imagine myself standing on a quiet pier before dawn, watching gray water ripple under a sky still bruised by war. Japan is officially at peace, yet nothing about this moment feels calm. There are no cheering crowds, no flags raised high for the cameras. Instead, there is silence, secrecy, and tension. Somewhere beyond the mist, an old steel hull is moving slowly toward the harbor. It is not supposed to exist, and yet, it is about to change the future of naval warfare in the Pacific. At first glance, this vessel looks unimpressive. Its shape is blunt. Its technology is old. Its design belongs to another era, another war that Japan officially renounced forever. Many would later call it ugly, outdated, useless. But as a historian, I have learned to be careful with such labels. Because sometimes, the weapons that look the weakest are the ones that reshape history in the most unexpected ways. This is the story of that submarine. The submarine that Japan was not supposed to have. The submarine that officially did not exist. The submarine that, quietly and without firing a single shot in anger, helped rebuild one of the most feared naval forces in the modern world. To understand why this submarine mattered, we must go back further. Much further. August 1945. I picture the ruins of Yokosuka Naval Arsenal, once the pride of the Imperial Japanese Navy. The war is over. Japan has surrendered. Its fleet is destroyed, scuttled, or taken away. Battleships lie rusting. Submarines are scrapped or handed to the victors. More than steel is lost here. Knowledge is disappearing. Engineers retire in shame. Officers are banned from service. And over everything hangs a new constitution, especially one sentence that will haunt Japan's naval planners for decades. Article IX. Japan forever renounces war and the possession of war potential. On paper, this is the end of Japanese naval power. But history rarely follows paper plans. By the early 1950s, a new tension is rising across the world. The Cold War has begun. As I study the intelligence reports of that era, one threat appears again and again in Japanese and American assessments: the Soviet Union. Not Soviet battleships. Not aircraft carriers. Soviet submarines. Long-range, diesel, electric boats designed to choke sea lanes, hunt shipping, and isolate islands. Japan is an island nation. It lives and dies by the sea. Food, fuel, raw materials, all must pass through narrow straits. If Soviet submarines ever cut those routes, Japan would suffocate without a single bomb falling on Tokyo. This creates a terrible paradox. Japan needs to defend itself at sea, but it is not allowed to build offensive naval weapons. And in the early Cold War mindset, nothing feels more offensive than a submarine. This is where the real mystery begins. As a historian, I find internal memos from 1953 and 1954 especially revealing. Japanese maritime safety officials, soon to become the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force, are worried. Their ships train endlessly in anti-submarine warfare, dropping sonar buoys, simulating attacks. But there is a fatal flaw. They have no real submarine to train against. No living target. No unpredictable enemy underwater. The United States Navy helps when it can, lending submarines for exercises. But it is expensive. Schedules clash. Language barriers slow everything. And American crews do not always understand Japanese coastal waters. Quietly, an idea begins to spread among Japanese naval planners. What if they had their own submarine? Not a combat submarine, of course. That would be unconstitutional. But a training submarine, a tool, a target, something defensive. The wording matters. In post-war Japan, words can decide everything. In 1955, the solution arrives from an unlikely source: an old American World War II submarine, USS Mingo. By American standards, it is obsolete. A Gato-class boat built for a war that ended a decade earlier. Its systems are outdated. Its speed is modest. Against modern navies, it would not last long, but to Japan, it is priceless. The submarine is transferred on loan, wrapped in careful legal language. When it arrives, it is renamed Kuroshio, a name recycled from a wartime destroyer, but spoken softly, almost apologetically. Publicly, officials avoid the word submarine. Instead, they use phrases like underwater training device and special vessel. As I read press coverage from the time, I notice something striking. There is almost none. The public barely knows Kuroshio exists. The rising sun naval ensign, once a symbol of imperial aggression, quietly returns to Japanese ships without ceremony. No protests erupt. No international outrage follows. The world is too busy watching Berlin and Korea. Now, let me take you inside Kuroshio. The air is thick with oil and metal. The corridors are narrow. Every sound echoes. Compared to modern submarines, it is crude. But this crudeness becomes its greatest strength. The submarine's acoustic signature, its noise, its behavior underwater, closely resembles early Soviet submarines of the time, like the Whiskey and Zulu classes. For Japanese crews training in anti-submarine warfare, Kuroshio is a perfect enemy. I imagine the tension during exercises. Destroyers sweep the sea with sonar, listening for a ghost beneath the waves. Somewhere below, Kuroshio runs silently, its crew sweating, counting seconds, testing how long they can evade detection. Every ping of sonar is a question. Every echo is a potential death sentence. This is not combat, but it feels real enough to change minds and build skills. The technical details matter here. Kuroshio displaces around 500 tons submerged. Its diesel engines charge batteries that drive electric motors underwater. Its maximum submerged speed is limited, but endurance is respectable. Sonar systems are old but educational. Japanese engineers study every vibration, every noise pattern. They learn how submarines hide, how they move, how they think. For a nation banned from submarine warfare, Japan is learning submarine warfare from the inside out. There are moments of irony that history loves. Some of the advisors involved in rebuilding Japan's submarine knowledge are former Imperial Navy officers, men who once fought against the United States. Among them are engineers and tacticians with combat experience, now working quietly under American supervision. Enemies turned instructors. Defeat transformed into data. Kuroshio never fires a torpedo in anger. Yet its operational history is intense. It participates in countless training missions. It forces JMSDF crews to confront their weaknesses. Early exercises are embarrassing. Ships lose contact. Sonar operators misinterpret echoes. Attacks fail. But slowly, things improve. I find reports describing a shift in confidence. Japanese destroyer crews begin to anticipate submarine behavior. Helicopters coordinate better with surface ships. Communication improves. Tactics evolve. The psychological impact is profound. Fear of the unseen enemy turns into professional respect. And this psychological change may be Kuroshio's greatest achievement. For the first time since 1945, Japanese sailors are no longer haunted by what they cannot see. They are learning to fight an invisible enemy without becoming one themselves. Comparisons with other navies reveal just how unusual this path is. While the United States and Soviet Union race to build faster, deeper, deadlier submarines, Japan goes in the opposite direction. It focuses on silence, detection, patience, defense over offense, quality over quantity. By the late 1950s, the clock is ticking. The men who designed wartime Japanese submarines are aging. Their knowledge will disappear unless it is used. Japanese industry, led by companies like Mitsubishi and Kawasaki, begins quiet research programs. Again, the language is careful. Everything is defensive. Everything is constitutional. In 1956, a political breakthrough occurs. The Japanese Diet approves the construction of domestic submarines, officially for self-defense. The first of these, Oyashio, is launched in 1959. It is modern, it is Japanese-built, and it carries within its steel hull the lessons learned from Kuroshio. By now, Kuroshio's role is fading. It has done its job. It becomes a training hulk, then quietly retires. In 1970, it is removed from service. 2 years later, it is scrapped, returning, in legal terms, to American ownership before disappearing forever. No museum preserves it. No monument honors it. And yet, when I look at modern Japanese submarines today, among the most advanced and quietest in the world, I see Kuroshio's shadow everywhere. This outdated submarine did not win battles. It did not sink ships. It did something far more dangerous. It taught a defeated nation how to think about the sea again, how to defend itself without provoking fear, how to turn weakness into doctrine. In the end, naval warfare was not changed by speed or firepower alone. It was changed by restraint, patience, and a forgotten steel hull that slipped into Tokyo Bay one cold morning, carrying the future beneath its worn paint. And that is why, as a historian, I say this without hesitation: the ugliest, most outdated submarine of its time outperformed battleships, not by sinking them, but by making them irrelevant in the mind of a nation that learned to fight without firing a shot.